boy, I saw this morning, and it was something that I definitely had a good chance to check out, and I think the gaming industry might be changing yet again. Uh,
I missed all of this because of that third topic.
so, I'm gonna read. This is from arstenica.com, written by Kyle Orlin and Sam. I cannot pronounce your last name, Sam. So sorry, I'm not gonna try. I'm just gonna call you Sam M for this. Google jumped into gaming with Google Stadia streaming service coming in 2019. At the Game Developers Conference, Google announced its biggest player yet in the gaming space, a streaming game service named Google Stadia, designed to run on everything from PCs and Android phones to Google's own Chromecast devices. Sorry. As of press time, the service's release window is simply 2019. No pricing information was announced at the event. Google's Stadia will run a selection of existing PC games on Google's centralized servers, taking in controller inputs and sending them back video. Controller inputs and sending back video and audio using Google's network of low latency data centers. The company revealed a new Google product controller along with a game service interface that revolves around a Play Now button. Press this on the web browser and the gameplay will begin, as in a quick 5 seconds with no download, no patch, no update, no install. With Stadia, this waiting game will be a thing of the past, Bill Harrison said. He then demonstrated Stadia gameplay on Pixel 3 XL, followed by the least powerful PC we could find. The following gameplay was advertised as 1080p 60 frames per second. Harrison confirmed that existing USB controllers and mouse and keyboard will function with the Stadia games as well. But you want that Stadia controller if you want to have access to capture button for immediate capture to YouTube to either live stream or save for later sharing, and a Google System button which lets Stadia players access the controller's built-in microphone. Google didn't confirm whether existing controllers have share buttons will work with any other Stadia platform's custom button functions. So, I took some notes for this specific topic because we're doing two topics. Well, it had 20 minutes long for this one because there's a lot to unpack here in terms of what Google announced at GDC this morning.
Yeah. I mean, we've talked about how it's interesting that the whole thing is going to be streaming. Like, I think of a game that some of the games that they're showing, right? It's these new games that have come out last year, this year, that require at least the minimum, 780p to run. 720p.
So the way that it works with the streaming service, that it will adjust to whatever internet you have. It's very much like YouTube. You know how on YouTube you go on YouTube and you watch a video, and like depending on how.
No, I understand that. My issue, Anthony, is that like with the upload and download speed of certain things that have to do with video games, especially like multiplayer games, if you're streaming a game.
Oh, I see what you're saying. And playing it, yeah.
There's just so much going on that I maybe I just don't understand the tech well enough. Maybe I've lost that touch of mine, and maybe someone needs to explain it better. But I see a problem. I see a big issue
because of the data caps, at least in the U.S. Yeah. And at least in the U.S. If you're in a country where that is not an issue, then this is probably the best thing that you are excited for. But yeah, like when it comes to the U.S. specifically, the big thing that I think a lot of people were wondering about with this is how do you navigate using this with the current internet structure of the U.S. With the data caps, with the way the internet is handled here, and in some cases with some providers, like you have to pay extra to get that unlimited internet. So how is that going to work out for a lot of people? And that's a big question. Not to mention, if they're streaming the game, if they're like streaming at 4K, high resolution games, and streaming, that's gonna take a lot of data. I feel like that alone would take up at least a good week or so, even less than that maybe, depending how much you're streaming.
I don't use anything but the internet in my house. Like I'm either on the laptop doing stuff on the internet, playing games via the internet. I'm not ever doing anything entertainment wise that doesn't require the internet. Like even my music now is all through Spotify. So there is no spot in my life where I don't use the internet for entertainment. I mean, shit, my second job requires the goddamn internet. DoorDash. So, my concern, when I look at how much data my family has used in a month, because my mom now, being disabled at home, she uses a shit ton of fucking data watching Netflix. Yeah. How does that, like, I would not be able to use the service. For what?
Yep. And yeah, the currently with the internet structure with some people and with the way it works here, it'd be kind of hard to do so. I think obviously everything was shown at the press conference today was very much pie in the sky. What I took away from that press conference is this is the ideas and these are the things that we want to do. And when I mean we mean Google. These are the things that we want to do, and these are the things that we want to look to possibly make in the future. And it's launching this year. Obviously, a lot of people are very skeptical still, even regarding the presentation they shown and what they have back behind it. It's going to come down to how well it works. Is it as they stated, as advertised? Like it will be perform well even in low internet areas. And the third thing
that's questionable. That's questionable at least.
Yes.
Questionable. That's questionable at best because, like, it's. I have to play most of my games on a lower quality setting because of my connection. Mm-hmm. Can a game that's streaming to my system, my rig, if you will, that is doing 720, could I play that game 4 hours a night streaming it and there'd be nothing wrong?
Yeah.
There's so many ifs on this. Like you said, pie in the sky. It's super ambitious, and I love that they're taking steps forward in the gaming world, but I don't think this is it.
It's going to be interesting because one of the things that I saw somebody tweet this earlier is if it works, if it does advertise, and if devs are on board, this is going to be was already the start of it, but like Google would have jump started it already, the streaming generation of games, because
I do listen to the Funhouse podcast, and they did briefly talk about this, and I don't remember who, but one of them had a really good point to make about this whole thing. Google has dumb money, has stupid money, more money than they know what to do with. And because of that, I feel like Stadia is a gamble that they're willing to take.
Yes. If
this fails, they just shrug their shoulders and go, oh well, no sweat off our back.
Absolutely, and you mentioned that they have the money for it. One of the things they announced during the press conference is they're establishing their own first-party studio. So they're having a first-party studio to make games exclusive to Stadia, a move which, if a company out there went out and said like hey we're streaming the games to our device, that's one thing. You have third parties sign on. It's also another thing to say, also we're having a first-party game company specifically to make exclusives for our platform, which indicates that they are definitely not only dipping their entire foot into the game industry, into what they want to do, but at this point, their whole body is underwater. And they are definitely diving in. They're definitely diving in.
The fact that Valera just put into the chat, holy shit.
God damn. For those listening on the audio version, he types in chat. Alphabet's revenue for 2018 is 136.8 billion. Billion with a B. It's a whole lot of money.
I'm wondering. I've never heard Alphabets, but I'm assuming that that's tied to Google.
Yes. Absolutely. One of the interesting things I noted down of what they were talking about during the press conference is a few things I want to point out. They did say that they're going to have cross-play with Stadia, so you can play this against other people on other consoles. Haha, Sony. They also said that the other interesting thing is one of the functions of its controller is you can carry over save states. Say you're playing on on your laptop, you hit the square button. It's like the square button's right next to the usual buttons you usually see. You hit it, it saves the game where it's at, like a save data, and then say you want to decide to play it on your phone. You pick up your phone. You have either the attachment for it, or I'm assuming like some on screen buttons you can choose from. Load it up, and then you continue where you left off. That's one of the things they kind of showed off during the press conference, which, that's really fucking cool. And I think that's one of the things that I think a lot of people have been wanting to see, especially with the other the big three, Microsoft, Sony, and Nintendo, to see if that's even possible. And Google's here is explaining it. It can happen, but in terms of like how it's going to be, it's, again, a lot of this is pie in the sky and wait and see when it comes out or when this is fully happening this year at some point. Speaking of which, they did say they got more information coming in summer of this year, which could mean they could be at E3.
Yeah.
And my gut says no, but would not be surprised if they do show up at E3.
I don't want this to fail, but I just don't see how it can succeed.
I think it's going to be interesting. I'm very curious. I think that if it succeeds, it's going to shape the game industry into a new way of how games are coming.
Sure, I completely agree with that. I think at the end of the day, if this works and it works well and everybody has access to it in the best ways, then great. But it's like Valer says, we don't know pricing.
Yep.
We don't know what exactly, like, is it its own device?
So
is this software being added?
So as far as what it is, it's a platform. You can use anything that supports Google, Chromecast, Chromebook, your web browser.
Sorry, Valer. For listeners, he said, "Is it bundled YouTube Premium?"
But basically, anything that supports Google in some capacity can run it. As far as what a price date or a price and/or a store, what it looks like and how you buy games or what have you, that has yet to be determined. My guess is they'll explain that in the summer, or either E3 or in the summer regarding it. So that is going to be questions hopefully will be answered by then. At the moment, we don't know. Much of this is basically showing up what it is and what this platform.
You know what I'm kind of curious about?
Mm-hmm.
I just thought of this, Anthony. What if, and follow me here, the only way you can use Stadia is if you have Google Fiber?
No, because the reason why I say no is because
it wasn't a yes or no. It was more of a what do you think of that?
Oh, okay. Well, my initial reaction is that they recently just did a test with people that, hey, play Assassin's Creed Odyssey for free on your Google Chrome browser as part of a test for something. They have Google Fiber.
Oh, okay, I didn't know that, Valer.
Yeah, but I doubt they'll do that. If they want to be open it to as many people, I don't think they're gonna go ahead and just make it to only people who get Google Fiber.
Again, it's just those data caps, man. That's what I keep thinking about.
I know. That's a big part of it. Like, it's, at the end of the day, like, you can have all these fancy things, you can say this and that, but at the end of the day, like, it's gonna be up to how it works, how much data and internet is it really spitting out, and how much is it taking in. And for a lot of us in the U.S., like, we have those data caps that hinder a lot of us, and in some cases, like, worse for others. If you're outside the U.S. and you have no problem with internet, we are jealous of you. But yeah, like, in the U.S., it's much more of a problem, and that's going to be a very interesting thing with an all internet type of platform that Google's putting out there. So, I mean, again, wait and see. I'm very curious to see how it develops and how this will change.
It could be a big thing, Anthony, where like every other country it's super successful except for the United States.
Yeah, absolutely. One thing that I do want to point out during the presentation, which is a total shot to both Microsoft and Sony, they had a slide at one point that said how many teraflops that that Stadia will have. It was like 10.7 teraflops, and then you see Sony and Microsoft's number, which was like less. It was like, I want to say like 5 for Microsoft and like 4.6 for Sony. And you see Stadia's number right in the center, 10.7 teraflops. It was like the biggest.
Teraflops of what?
Of power, or just I want to say RAM. I'm not too sure, but like when I hear teraflops, I'm thinking pretty much of like power and RAM and making the game like 60 frames consistently. GPU, thank you, the GPU. So
that shit costs money. Yeah. Like, that's why it's not naturally in the fucking Xbox or the PlayStation. Like, it's just not cheap.
I know. That was the point in the presentation where Google was just putting out his dick. It's just like, oh, here's how big ours is. Also, they have a lot of money, so they can do that. So they're
talking about not talking about that it's cheap or not for them. They don't fucking care. I'm saying to sell it is not cheap.
Yeah, absolutely.
For the consumer, it won't be cheap.
Mm-hmm. One of the things they did
unless they figured out something that Microsoft and Sony didn't.
Yep. This does bring up a question though regarding Microsoft, because Microsoft, like, as of last week, announced that there were rumors that there was gonna be a new streaming console from Microsoft that's gonna be coming out in May, discussed in April, and I'm kind of wondering what's their mind at right now after seeing this presentation. Like, I kind of wonder what they're thinking of about what plans or whatnot. I'm pretty sure they're going to follow through anyways, but I want to think in my mind, like, what, if anything, has any effect on them. Probably not, but I'm just kind of thinking, like, yeah, I'd like to be a fly in the room of Microsoft when they saw this press conference. But that's going to be interesting to see what they say, what they do with their console.
I mean, yeah, we still don't know. Like, we know that Sony's not going to be at E3, so we have to wait for the next PlayStation experience to see what they have coming out. And then on top of that, like, Microsoft's supposed to be announcing something at E3. Nintendo's supposed to have something at E3. So that's, I don't know.
Mm-hmm. A bunch of question marks for a lot of things right now. Google just kind of threw a wrench in a lot of people's plans. But also,
I mean, I sincerely hope, Anthony, that whatever Stadia does, it does change the gaming landscape to a better area.
Yes.
I really sincerely hope that. I just, what they presented today does not show that to me. It shows to me that they want this high-power gaming, but on their terms. And to me, that's just not, it's just not as feasible as I think they think it is.
Yeah. I'm very, very curious to see how it goes. I think that one of the things also not to mention, like, during this, they'll take a shot. Well, they didn't say verbatim, but they were touting, the YouTube gaming streaming content as well, and how they have that feature in Stadia, which also, cool feature they showed off was basically if you have a stream and on YouTube and you have a chat that wants to join in, there's a button that shows up at the very bottom of the chat, and you can join in to queue to play the player on stream. Right then and there, which is a cool...
I'll say this, Anthony. I hope that there's a version of Stadia that is not streaming. I hope there's a version of Stadia that's like, hey, do you have a You have a hard drive that you can plug into it. Well, here you go. You can
I, I
download.
I think that the way they set this up and the way they presented it, I think they're all in on the internet and
I'm
how.
aware. Trust me, I'm totally aware. I'm just sitting there thinking like I'm thinking as positive as I can about this thing, but it's. Oh, Blair. All right.
It's a lot of questions, but they will definitely find out. But if anything, Google has definitely put their foot in the game industry right now, and yeah, welcome Google to the game industry. All right, so